Sonia Carter had everything that is usually considered the markers of a successful life. A spacious house on the outskirts of Boston, a loving husband, Robert, who was a well-paid programmer, 2 wonderful children, and a career in social projects. Yet, something deep within her remained unfulfilled. Instead of the satisfaction she hoped for, she was haunted by a strange emptiness, like the shadow of long-forgotten dreams. One day, during a quick stop at the city library, Sonia accidentally met Case. He was nothing like Robert. A man with a chaotic life, a charming smile that could light up a room, and a disarming sincerity. His easygoing nature and genuine curiosity seemed to open a window to another world for Sonia. He listened to her so intently, as if her words carried unique meaning, and with him, she felt safe to share even the most intimate thoughts. Their conversations in the library turned into walks and long evenings in cozy cafes. Sonia learned that Case dreamed of traveling through Asia, feeling the freedom of distant lands. This made her reflect on her own life, which seemed so proper yet so constrained. During these encounters, she felt alive again, as if she had regained wings she had long lost. At home, however, reality awaited. The hugs of her children, her caring husband, family dinners. Whenever she tried to understand if she was ready to leave it all behind for herself, fear gripped her. How could she betray what she had spent years building? Her thoughts became a battlefield between duty and the longing for freedom. One day, Case suggested they spend a weekend together at a hotel out of town. He promised it would help her feel what real life could be like. His words felt like a temptation too difficult to resist. She knew that if she agreed, returning to her usual life would no longer be an option. At home, standing in front of the bedroom mirror, Sonia looked at the half-packed suitcase. The room was silent, broken only by the steady ticking of the clock. Her gaze fell on a family photo. Her smiling children, Robert with his warm, genuine expression. This was her life. Stable, predictable, but was it happy? She picked up her phone to text Case, but no words came. Her heart was pounding so loudly, it felt as if the whole world could hear it. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Robert walked in with a cup of tea, noticing her distressed expression. "Sonia, are you okay? Did something happen?" His voice was full of concern. Sonia couldn't hold back her tears. Robert sat beside her and placed a hand on her shoulder. "Whatever it is, you can trust me." Shaking, Sonia whispered, "I met someone, but it's not what you think. I feel like I've lost myself." Robert was silent for a few moments, processing her words. Instead of getting angry, he took her hand. "Sonia, I don't know how you're feeling right now, but I'm willing to fight for us, if that's what you want to." His words touched Sonia deeply. She realized their relationship still had a chance if she chose honesty, with him and herself. The next day, Sonia turned off her phone without replying to Case's messages. She decided to focus on her family. She and Robert began talking more and spending more time together. Over time, Sonia revived her passion for painting and even signed up for art classes. As time went on, one evening Sonia suggested a family trip to Italy. It would be their shared adventure. Robert supported the idea, and the children couldn't wait for the trip. Rome welcomed them with warm sunlight, Florence inspired them with its art, and Venice became a romantic finale to their journey. During a gondola ride, Sonia watched the lights reflecting in the water and felt truly happy. "That was perfect," she said to Robert, holding his hand. "It's just the beginning," he replied with a smile. They both knew they had gone through a challenging time, but their lives were now real, filled with love, support, and new dreams, new horizons. After returning from their trip, Sonia felt that her life had changed forever. The journey to Italy not only brought new experiences but also gave her a different perspective on her family, herself, and what it truly meant to be happy. At home, she decided to reorganize her time to make more space for herself. Seeing how she had blossomed, Robert was more than willing to support her. Together, they decided that Sonia would work less and focus on her art. Sonia spent her free time in a small studio she set up in the corner of their living room. She painted watercolors inspired by the Italian landscapes. To her surprise, her work began to draw attention from friends and acquaintances. One day, a friend who worked at an art gallery suggested that Sonia hold a small exhibition. "You can share what's in your heart through these paintings," her friend said. "It will inspire others." Sonia hesitated, but Robert encouraged her. "You've always dreamed of pursuing art. It's time to make those dreams come true." The exhibition turned out to be a success. People were drawn to her paintings, and she even sold a few. Sonia felt like she had found something deeply personal, something that inspired her and gave her a sense of purpose. A family as a team. Robert and the kids became not just her support system but also part of her new creative journey. The children eagerly posed for her portraits, and Robert helped organize her artwork into an online gallery. "You know," Sonia said to Robert one evening, "this has become something much bigger than I ever imagined, and I never could have done it without you." "We're a team," he replied with a smile. Robert, too, found new inspiration. After years of working in the corporate world, he decided to launch his own startup. It wasn't an easy decision, but Sonia supported him just as he had supported her. Together, they were building a life where each of them could thrive individually while staying connected as a family. The power of choice. Years passed, and the Carters' lives became entirely different from what they had been before. Their life wasn't perfect, but it was real. They traveled, explored new places, and supported one another's endeavors. Sonia occasionally thought about Case. She never saw him again, but she reflected on that chapter of her life with gratitude. It had been painful and challenging, but those doubts and struggles helped her understand what truly mattered. One day, as she looked at a family photo from their most recent trip to Japan, Sonia thought, "I chose not to run away but to fight, and that fight made me happy." She no longer doubted her decisions. Her life was filled with dreams, love, art, and family. Most importantly, she had found herself again. New challenges. Time passed, and the Carters' lives took on new shades of complexity. The children were growing up, each developing their own unique personality. Their eldest daughter, Elizabeth, became passionate about music, while their youngest son, Henry, showed a keen interest in science and robotics. This delighted Sonia and Robert but also brought new responsibilities. "You realize our weekends are now endless concerts, competitions, and exhibitions?" Robert joked one evening over dinner. "And it's wonderful," Sonia replied with a smile. Sonia's artistic career was also gaining momentum. One exhibition followed another, and soon her work began to be purchased for private collections. She even received an invitation to showcase her art in New York. It was a major step forward, but she hesitated, unsure if she was ready for such a challenge. "You have to do this," Robert said. "I know it's a bit scary, but you're ready." "But what about you and the kids? How can I leave you for a few months?" "We'll manage. You've given us so much. It's time for you to focus on yourself." Sonia agreed, though leaving her family was difficult. She moved to New York to prepare for the exhibition, while Robert and the children visited her on weekends. The exhibition was a tremendous success, and Sonia realized that her art mattered, not just to her, but to others as well. Strengthening the family. Despite the distance, the family remained strong. Robert taught the kids how to manage household tasks, and Sonia learned to trust them and allow them more independence. Their marriage also grew stronger as they no longer hesitated to share their feelings and fears with each other. When the exhibition concluded, Sonia returned home transformed, filled with energy and new ideas. She began working on a book about her journey to happiness and self-fulfillment. The next generation. Years went by. Elizabeth enrolled in a prestigious music academy, and Henry won a grant to study at one of the top technical universities. Sonia and Robert watched as their children embarked on their own adventures, feeling proud that they had provided them with a strong foundation. "We really did it," Robert said one evening as they sat together on the terrace, watching the sunset. "Yes, but our story isn't over yet," Sonia replied, leaning against him. Ahead lay new challenges, new dreams, and new opportunities. But Sonia now understood an essential truth. Life doesn't have to be perfect to be happy. All you need is to stay true to yourself, fight for your dreams, and cherish the people by your side. A second wind. Life seemed to have settled into a peaceful rhythm. The children had found their paths, and Sonia and Robert enjoyed their time together. But this new stage of life brought not only joy but also new challenges. One day, Sonia received a letter from a gallery in Paris. Her work had gained international attention, and she was invited to participate in a major art festival. She was thrilled but also deeply apprehensive. Paris felt like a distant dream, and success was something she could scarcely imagine just a few years ago. "This is your moment, Sonia," Robert said as she showed him the invitation. "We started this journey together, and I know you can do this." Sonia hesitated. Her heart was filled with love for her family, but a part of her soul yearned for deeper immersion into the world of art. Expanding horizons, she accepted the offer and traveled to Paris. Her exhibition became one of the festival's highlights. Sonia's paintings, reflecting the emotions, conflicts, and joys of her own life, captivated the audience. Critics praised her ability to blend deep intimacy with universal themes. But the issue of distance arose once more. Robert and the children couldn't always be by her side, and she missed them more than she had anticipated. One evening, sitting in her Parisian hotel room, scrolling through family photos, Sonia realized that no amount of fame or recognition could replace the simple moments she shared with them at home. Returning to herself. After the festival ended, Sonia decided to return home earlier than planned. Robert greeted her at the airport with a bouquet of her favorite peonies, and the children had prepared a family dinner. "We're so proud of you, Mom," Elizabeth said, hugging her. "And we missed you," Henry added. Sonia felt her heart swell with warmth. She realized that the greatest treasure in her life was her family, and no achievement could ever compare to their love. New plans. Back home, Sonia began creating a series of paintings dedicated to her family. These works were filled with tenderness, warmth, and deep emotion. She decided that her art would no longer be just about herself but also about the people who shaped her into who she was. Robert wasn't standing still either. His startup was flourishing, and he proposed a joint project where their skills could intertwine. Together, they developed a platform to help emerging artists find their way in the art world. Life's wisdom. Years passed, and Sonia and Robert watched their children grow into adults. One day, they sat together in the garden of their home, sipping tea. "Did you ever think our life would turn out this way?" Robert asked, watching her smile. "No," Sonia replied. "But now I know happiness isn't a finish line. It's the journey." Her words lingered in the air, like a soft breeze carrying the scent of blooming flowers, and they both knew their journey was far from over. New horizons awaited, ready to be discovered together. Dark clouds over family happiness. Sonia and Robert's life seemed perfect. A shared creative project, successful careers, and children thriving on their own paths. But beneath the surface of this happiness, shadows loomed. Robert noticed that Sonia had grown distant in recent months. Her thoughts often wandered, and even in moments of joy, her eyes carried a sadness that he couldn't ignore. At a charity art event hosted by their platform, Sonia met Daniel, a young photographer from Berlin. He was charismatic, talented, and had a vibrant outlook on life that reminded Sonia of Kay's. Their conversations began professionally but soon evolved. Daniel started inviting her out for walks and dinners under the guise of discussing projects. The first crack. Sonia felt herself drawn to something dangerous and exciting. She justified it as seeking inspiration, but deep down, she knew she was looking for something her stable life with Robert lacked: passion and novelty. Robert began to suspect something. One evening, after returning home from work, he saw Sonia quickly put down her phone, looking flustered. "Is something wrong?" he asked calmly. "No, just a lot on my mind," Sonia replied, avoiding his gaze. Robert decided not to press her, but doubt started to gnaw at him. Betrayal at the cafe. The breaking point came on a rainy evening. Robert was supposed to be at a meeting with investors, but it was canceled at the last minute. On his way home, He passed a cafe and saw Sonia through the window. She was sitting at a table with Daniel. Their heads were close, and Robert watched as Daniel touched her hand. Sonia didn't pull away. Robert froze. His legs felt weak, but he forced himself to enter the cafe. As he approached, Sonia noticed him. Her face turned pale, and she quickly withdrew her hand. "Robert, this isn't what it looks like," she stammered, her voice trembling. Daniel, startled but trying to remain composed, added, "Sonia mentioned you work together. We were just discussing ideas." Robert didn't respond. His eyes, filled with pain and disappointment, said more than words ever could. "Home," he said curtly. Sonia obeyed, leaving Daniel behind. The emotional explosion. The drive home was suffocating in its silence. Only when they were in their bedroom did Robert speak. "How long has this been going on?" "Robert, nothing happened. It was just conversations," Sonia replied, but even she knew how weak that sounded. "Conversations? I saw the way you looked at him. That's how you used to look at me." Tears welled up in Sonia's eyes. She sat on the edge of the bed, covering her face with her hands. "I don't know what's wrong with me," she whispered. "I love you, Robert, but sometimes I feel like I'm losing myself." Robert, torn between anger and heartbreak, cautiously sat beside her. "Sonia, we've been through so much together. We've fought for this. We've built this. But if you don't want to be with me anymore, just say it." "No," she said firmly. "I want to fight for us. But I don't know how." Time for truth. The weeks that followed were difficult. Robert kept his distance, giving Sonia the space to figure out what she truly wanted. Sonia cut ties with Daniel, but knew she had to confront the deeper issues within herself. She started therapy to explore her fears and insecurities. After much hesitation, Robert joined her sessions, and together they began to rebuild their marriage. A new beginning. This period became a turning point for them. They learned to have honest conversations about their pain and fears. Robert admitted that he had been prioritizing work over family. Sonia realized that her search for passion was, in reality, an attempt to rediscover her own identity. One autumn evening, as they sat by the fireplace, Robert took Sonia's hand. "I don't want to lose you," he said softly, "and I'm willing to fight for us." "I am too," Sonia replied, her voice steady. They both understood now. Infidelity, whether physical or emotional, has the power to destroy a relationship. But it can also serve as a wake-up call, a chance to rebuild something stronger. It all depends on the strength of the love and the willingness to fight for what truly matters. Deep waters. Even though Sonia and Robert decided to fight for their relationship, the shadow of recent events still loomed over them. Their joint project, which once brought them joy, now felt like another source of tension. Robert became overly cautious and attentive, while Sonia felt as though she was constantly being monitored. One evening, while working on a presentation, they found themselves arguing for the third time that day. Unable to hold back his frustration, Robert snapped, "Sonia, do you understand how important it is to present this platform the right way? We can't afford any mistakes. Robert, we can't work like this. You treat me like a subordinate, not like your wife." Sonia shot back, her voice sharp. Robert stopped for a moment, looking at her with weary and disappointed eyes. "I'm trying to save what's left of us. But sometimes it feels like you've already made your choice." Those words hit Sonia like a thunderclap. She wanted to argue, but no words came to her. A glimpse of the past. Things grew even more complicated when Sonia unexpectedly ran into Daniel at an art event. He approached her with the same easy smile that had once captivated her. "Sonia, it's good to see you. Honestly, I thought you hated me after everything," he said. Sonia hesitated, unsure how to respond, but finally said, "No, Daniel, I don't hate you. I hate what I allowed myself to do." They spoke for only a few minutes, but Robert, who had also unexpectedly attended the event, saw them together. After that evening, the tension at home became unbearable. Robert didn't bring up what he saw, but his silence spoke volumes. The final conversation. One night, After the kids had gone to stay with friends, Robert confronted her. "You saw him, didn't you?" Sonia knew there was no use in lying. "Yes, but it was a coincidence, and nothing happened between us." Robert let out a bitter, short laugh. "Nothing? Sonia, do you realize how it looks? You're always searching for something, or someone else, instead of figuring out what you want from me." Sonia sighed, her voice trembling but quiet. "I'm not searching for someone else, Robert. I'm searching for myself. And I'm afraid that in our life together, I'm losing the part of me that wants to feel free." Robert silently walked to the window. After a long pause, he finally said, "If you want to leave, Sonia, I won't stop you anymore." At a crossroads, that conversation became a turning point. Sonia realized she could no longer balance between two worlds. The next day, she sat down to write a letter, not to Robert or Daniel, but to herself. In it, she confessed her fears, desires, and confusion. When she finished, she felt as though a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. For the first time in a long while, she knew what she needed to do. Sonia decided to take a few months to attend an artist residency in Japan, a dream she had long neglected. She spoke with Robert and told him, "I love you, but right now, I need to figure out who I am, without any outside influences." Robert nodded silently, his eyes filled with both pain and understanding. A new chapter. The trip to Japan became transformative for Sonia. There, she learned to appreciate silence, space, and the small moments that once seemed insignificant. Her art reached new depths, and she finally felt she had found a balance between her personal identity and her responsibilities. When she returned home, Sonia was ready to have an honest conversation with Robert. Her heart felt lighter, and she knew she could finally answer his question. "Do you want to fight for us?" What Robert answered was another story. Back to basics. The next few months felt like walking on thin ice. Sonia and Robert worked hard to rebuild trust, both fully aware it would be a long process. They started with the basics, spending more time together. Long walks, evenings playing board games with their kids, and conversations about books they both loved became small but meaningful steps toward reconnecting. Robert, despite his reserved nature, opened up to Sonia one evening, admitting that he too had felt neglected in their marriage. "I always thought that if I gave you stability and support, it would be enough," he said, almost as if he were speaking to himself. "But now I see that I was just there next to you, not truly with you." His words struck a chord with Sonia. For the first time, she saw Robert in a new light. She started listening to him more, rather than only sharing her own feelings. This became their first real step toward repairing their bond. An unexpected encounter. One day, as Sonia and Robert were having lunch at a cafe, they unexpectedly ran into Daniel. He walked in with a group of friends, but upon spotting Sonia, he stopped in his tracks. Robert noticed him as well, and the tension was palpable. "Hi, Sonia," Daniel said, visibly flustered. His eyes shifted to Robert. "Are you together?" Robert turned to Sonia, silently encouraging her to answer. "Yes, together," she said firmly, her voice carrying a confidence that had been missing before. Daniel seemed taken aback but quickly recovered. "I'm happy for you, Sonia. You deserve to be happy." With a brief nod, he turned and walked to his table, not lingering. Afterward, Robert looked at Sonia. "Do you still think about him?" Sonia met his gaze and answered honestly. "No. I'm only thinking about us and how we can make our life better." The turning point. Sonia and Robert decided to see a family therapist to delve deeper into their emotions and address their needs. The sessions helped them understand each other better and taught them how to communicate openly and without fear. Sonia began to trust Robert more, and he, in turn, opened up to her in ways he never had before. Slowly but surely, they started to find their way back to the people they had been, only now with greater maturity and self-awareness. The final word. One evening, sitting on the terrace with glasses of wine, Robert said, "You know, I thought after everything that happened, all I'd feel was pain, but now I realize it made us stronger." Sonia smiled. "I feel the same. We haven't just gone back to the beginning. We're building something new. They moved closer to each other, looking up at the starry sky. For the first time in a long while, they felt a deep sense of peace and harmony. Their life wasn't what it used to be, but now it was their shared choice to fight for happiness and cherish what they had rebuilt together.